With interest rates rising, the cost of renting an apartment is also going up, which means that you as a landlord ought to be way more selective about who you're putting in your property, because if you have big bills and any one of your tenants stops paying the rent, that can cause you a big problem. So in this video, I'm going to talk to you guys about the 5 red flags you should look out for when screening a tenant for your rental property. So the first thing we're going to talk about is credit score. Now, does a good credit score mean that your tenant is always going to pay the rent? No, it doesn't mean that. And to tell you the truth, some of the worst tenants we've ever had have had some of the best credit scores. Depending on the property class that you're renting and what city you're renting, generally we don't like to go for below 640. You're generally going to be able to expect a pretty reasonable amount of responsibility in that person and when it comes to paying their bills, therefore paying your rent. On the other hand, if you're renting a high-end condo in Toronto, it seems like we have little to no problem finding people who with credit scores, let's say 750 and above. But does the credit score mean everything? The answer to that is no, which is why we look into more detail and go for the credit report. You can ask the potential tenant for a full credit report. You can either get it from Equifax, I think there's TransUnion, Borrowwell, there's a few options out there, but you want to get a full detailed report. And it's going to tell you a few things. It's going to tell you if they have other kind of loans, car payment, obligations, outstanding balances on credit cards, any significant dings or people chasing them for money. That's all going to show up in the report. Now, the third thing we like to consider is bank statements, should they choose to give that to you. Because sometimes we get people who are new to the country, they have financial resources, however, they don't have a job, they don't have credit, they don't have any of this stuff, but they have money in the bank. Some of the things that concern us when we're looking at bank statements, and it's not a deep concern, it's just something that we may have to ask questions about, infrequent e-transfers in and out that don't necessarily make sense or paint the story of something standard like having a job and needing to pay for standard bills. Other things that may concern us is seeing the bank account get close to zero, because that's going to be a little alarming, especially if they're moving from a place where the rent is cheaper. The fourth thing that we look for in the bank statements is having a short pay period. In other words, they don't have payments coming from their employer for a very long period of time, and especially if it's under 6 months or 3 months, basically any probation period. Because sometimes you get people applying and then they're just like, yes, I got a job, I'm going to go out and rent a place, and then that job doesn't work out, and now they're in your apartment without an income and they won't be able to pay your rent. And the fifth thing that we now screen for is to see whether or not they have any prior evictions or whether they have any reports of dings through the Landlord Tenant Board or any of the credit bureaus attached to tenants paying their rent. If you want to know more about the credit bureaus, leave a comment in the comments below and I'll be sure to make video about how landlord and tenant rent reporting works and how you can take advantage of it. When you're looking at all these things and trying to put it all together and piece together stories, see what this person who's going to be living at your property is like. You don't want to get overly worked up over little things. I mean, how many of us may have had bills go to collections that are from, let's say, Rogers or Bell, and it's over like a few bucks or something you disagreed with and they sent it to collections and it's just destroying your credit. The other thing to note is that yes, sometimes people have certain financial troubles, but if you can see that they always prioritized where they lived, maybe this can work out for you and that person because they at least prioritize their rent. But as you become more advanced and you get more experience as a landlord or somebody who is working in real estate and maybe placing tenants, you are going to want to rely a little on your gut as you go ahead with things, because I've had people who actually showed very well on all these check marks and we vetted them thoroughly, everything seemed good on paper, but when we moved them into the home, they just ended up being a disaster. Your gut eventually will be the best judgment of all as soon as you get enough experience. So with that being said, I hope you enjoyed this video. Leave me a comment if you have any questions about landlord tenant matters, or check out our other videos because we have a lot of great free content and information about landlord tenant related matters. So as always, make sure to like, subscribe, and I will see you on the next one.